What if the things you've dismissed as chance were never accidental? What if the moments that stirred your chest, the patterns that echoed through your days, were all whispers from something ancient, something that remembers you? Welcome to Secrets Beyond Archive, where we don't just question reality, we peel it back. There is a sacred truth buried beneath your routines, older than language and deeper than thought. You once knew it instinctively. As a child, you felt it in the wind, in dreams that lingered, in the uncanny timing of a stranger's words. But somewhere along the way, the world taught you to ignore it, to doubt what you felt, to trade wonder for certainty. That forgetting wasn't failure. It was part of the path. And yet, something in you kept listening. That same part brought you here, not by accident, but by alignment, by a soft, persistent pull from within. This video isn't just content. It's a remembering, a mirror held to your soul's original language. Here, we don't offer quick answers. We open ancient doors, so take a breath, release what you think you know, and step into the quiet current of what's always been calling you back. From the moment you were old enough to ask questions, the world offered you answers wrapped in labels. Coincidence, chance, random. That strange feeling when someone calls just as you think of them. Coincidence. The song that plays exactly when your heart breaks. Coincidence. A dream that mirrors real-life days later. Again, just coincidence. You were trained to ignore the language of the soul. Modern society rewards logic, proof, replication. If it can't be measured, it's dismissed. And so, you learn to silence your inner radar. You stopped listening for the whispers. You stopped believing in moments that felt just a little too perfect, too aligned, too alive to be accidents. But what if those moments weren't random at all? Carl Jung called it synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence. Events that are linked not by cause and effect, but by a shared significance. He saw the psyche and the outer world as mirrors, reflecting one another in ways that defy linear logic. His collaborator, Nobel-winning physicist Wolfgang Pauli, saw echoes of this in quantum entanglement, particles reacting to each other at great distances without any observable connection. Together, they proposed something radical. Maybe the universe isn't only mechanical. Maybe it's symbolic, alive, speaking. And maybe it's been speaking to you all along. Think about it. You see the same numbers everywhere, 11. 222. You hear the same phrase from two strangers on the same day. You meet someone who feels oddly familiar. These patterns arrive during transition, turmoil, or decision points. They're not just weird coincidences. They feel personal because they are personal. They arrive when your outer world collides with an inner shift. Still, doubt lingers. Is it real? Or are you just reaching? Many people ask the same. In thousands of comment sections across the internet, voices rise. I kept seeing 222 before I left my toxic job. The moment I felt most alone, I heard a song my father used to sing, years after he passed. It's like reality winked at me. These aren't delusions. They're attempts to reclaim meaning in a world that's taught us to fear it. Synchronicity, at its heart, is not about superstition. It's about alignment. It's about recognizing that something within you resonates with something outside of you, and that resonance forms a pattern, a message, a thread pulling you forward. So maybe you're not imagining it. Maybe you're remembering it. Remembering how it feels to live in tune with something greater. To walk through life with your senses open, your heart listening. To see the invisible connections that were always there, just waiting for you to slow down enough to notice. What if coincidence was never just coincidence? What if it's how the universe leaves breadcrumbs so you can find your way back to yourself? It didn't happen in a temple. It wasn't during meditation or on some mountaintop retreat. It happened on a Tuesday or maybe a Thursday, a regular day unremarkable on the surface. You were staring at the clock. 11:11 again. That was the third time that week. Then, as you opened your car door, the same song came on. The one you hadn't heard in years. The one your dad used to hum when everything felt safe. A few hours later, someone you hadn't spoken to in months texted you out of nowhere, repeating the exact phrase you dreamed the night before. You didn't know what to call it, but something cracked open. That was the moment your mind split. The moment your conditioned logic, raised on predictability, probability, reason, collided with something it couldn't contain. Something wild, personal, poetic. It didn't ask for your belief. It just happened, over and over, until the old explanation stopped working. No one told you that awakening isn't always gentle. It doesn't feel like bliss at first. It feels like rupture, like being pulled out of the script you've memorized. Like discovering your reflection isn't just in the mirror, but in the events, people, numbers, songs, and dreams all around you. You started remembering patterns that didn't make sense, dreams that whispered futures. A phrase you wrote down suddenly spoken by a stranger. You brushed it off at first. I'm overthinking, it's just coincidence, I'm tired. But the signs didn't stop. If anything, they multiplied. They got louder, more precise, more undeniable. That was when you had to choose. Either retreat back into the safety of skepticism or step into the mystery. Not the blind, naive kind of belief, but a conscious curiosity. A willingness to accept that life might be more alive, more interconnected, more symbolic than anyone ever taught you to believe. This is what they never prepared you for, that your mind could split and still function, that your logic could coexist with wonder, that it's okay not to have answers for everything. Sometimes the moment that shocks you is the very one that frees you. You didn't imagine it. You ignored it because they told you to, but now you see. And once you do, it's impossible to go back. Long before we had words, we had signs. Not street signs or stoplights, but the original language of the soul, symbols. The universe has always spoken this way, not in paragraphs or formulas, but in images, patterns, echoes. A crow at your window, a dream with 3 staircases, the number 444 etched into a receipt, a license plate, a passing thought. Not random, not meaningless. Every symbol carries vibration. And once you're attuned, it's like living in a world where everything hums with personal meaning. Ancient civilizations understood this. The Egyptians didn't just paint animals on their walls. They encoded cosmology into falcons, serpents, and suns. The Hindus mapped the body through chakra symbols, spinning energy centers shaped like lotus flowers, each petal precise. The Greeks turned gods into archetypes, dreams into messages. And in the Kybalion, the principle of correspondence, as above, so below, reminds us. What happens outwardly mirrors the inner world. Nothing is literal, everything is layered. That hawk flying over your car isn't just a bird. It's a messenger, perhaps of clarity, of rising above conflict, of vision. The song you heard in the grocery store might be more than nostalgia. Maybe it's timing you back to a memory you're meant to heal. Joseph Campbell, in his study of myths, called this the hero's call, life nudging you forward through images too strange to ignore. But symbols don't shout, they whisper. To hear them, you have to slow down. You have to let go of needing proof and start allowing pattern. Symbols live where logic fails, just below the surface of everyday experience. They don't demand belief, only awareness. Once you begin to notice them, your reality changes. A simple walk becomes a conversation. A recurring emotion becomes a compass. Even confusion has shape. You start to trust not what things are, but what they mean. And suddenly, everything that once felt random begins to arrange itself into a living metaphor. Your life becomes mythic, alive with metaphor, guided not just by plans, but by poetry. And you, once asleep in the literal, begin to awaken to the language the universe has always spoken. Deep within you live ancient figures, shadows, sages, lovers, and warriors. You don't remember learning them, but they shape your dreams, your fears, the people you're drawn to. Jung called them archetypes, primal patterns that live not outside of us, but within the collective unconscious, waiting to be awakened. And when you start to see symbols, not just around you, but in you, that's when synchronicity speaks loudest. You meet someone who feels strangely familiar. You're drawn to a place you've never been. You dream of water, and the next day you're overwhelmed by emotion you didn't see coming. These aren't random events. They're reflections, mirrors. Your archetypes making themselves known. They don't use words, they use resonance. That moment you met your twin flame and everything in your life began to align. That wasn't coincidence, it was activation. That person didn't just arrive. They revealed a part of you that had been asleep. Often, the people we meet are symbols themselves, living archetypes sent to trigger transformation. The inner child seeks innocence. The hero craves a challenge. The sage longs for understanding. And each time you encounter an experience that lights something inside you, it's often one of these inner figures waking up. When the universe responds with synchronicity, it's not just confirming your direction, it's showing you yourself. Your subconscious doesn't speak English. It speaks in images, in stories, in signs. And when those inner symbols are stirred, the outer world begins to reflect their energy. The more you align with your inner truth, the more the outer world seems to respond. But really, it's always been responding. You just weren't listening. This is the paradox. The more personal your experience, the more universal it becomes. Jung didn't invent this idea. He uncovered it. Across time and culture, humanity has known this truth, that within each of us is a cast of sacred characters, each waiting for their scene. And when synchronicity strikes, it's often because one of them has stepped onto the stage. It's not madness, it's meaning. And the more you listen, the more you realize you're not just living a life, you're living a myth. Some meetings are more than encounters. They feel like collisions, like timelines bending, like being seen for the first time by a mirror you didn't know existed. This is the twin flame effect. You don't plan it. You don't manifest it. It arrives like a frequency that breaks everything quiet inside you. Suddenly, the world starts whispering louder. You see repeated numbers. You dream in layers. You sense things moments before they happen. Not because they're predicting your life, but because they're reflecting what your soul already knows. Twin flames aren't here to complete you. They're here to awaken you. It's not always romantic. It's rarely calm. Often it's chaotic, catalytic, electric. But beneath the intensity is something more ancient, recognition, like meeting a version of yourself that's always been waiting. Your polar energy, reversed and returned. And when that meeting happens, synchronicity floods in. You start to feel like the universe is conspiring. Songs arrive like messages. Books fall off shelves. Conversations echo thoughts you haven't spoken. It doesn't feel random. It feels designed. But it's not magic in the way stories taught you, it's energy. A field of resonance so precise, it vibrates your unconscious awake. This is the real activation. Meeting your twin isn't just emotional, it's electromagnetic. It amplifies what's unresolved. It draws out your inner archetypes. It calls forward the parts of you you've buried to survive. That's why it feels like you can't run. You're not running from a person. You're running from your own reflection. And when you stop running, everything starts aligning. Not because your twin flame is the answer, but because they helped you remember the question. The question you stopped asking when you agreed to forget. Who am I really? Why does this feel like home and fear at the same time? The synchronicities aren't a reward. They're a roadmap. The pull you feel isn't a spell. It's a summons. And the more you resist, the louder it becomes, until you realize this was never about someone else. It was always about what they awaken in you. The twin flame is not your destination. They are your signal. And once you've heard it, you can't unhear it. You glance at the clock. 11:11, a receipt, $22, $22. The license plate ahead, $555. At first, it feels like coincidence until it keeps happening. Until the numbers start showing up when you're thinking about something important, or feeling lost, or silently asking for a sign. That's when it shifts. That's when numbers begin to talk. What if numbers aren't just quantities but frequencies? Ancient systems like numerology, Pythagorean thought, and even modern energy medicine agree. Each number holds a vibration, a tone, a message. When a number repeats, it's not shouting louder, it's harmonizing deeper. The universe isn't random, it's rhythmic. Seeing 111 might mean alignment, a signal that your thoughts are creating faster than you realize. 222, a gentle reassurance that balance and trust are needed. 555 often brings change, a nudge that transformation is underway. But here's the secret. It's not about memorizing meanings. It's about asking yourself what you were thinking, feeling, or seeking the moment that number arrived. Numbers don't speak in absolutes. They speak in resonance. And you are the interpreter. These moments are less like answers and more like invitations to pause, to reflect, to realign. So how do you respond when numbers reach out? You don't need rituals, just awareness. Next time a repeating number catches your eye, take one slow breath. Notice what's present. Name what you're feeling. Ask softly, what part of me needed to hear this right now? That is how you answer. And over time, something magical happens. You stop looking for signs and start living in the flow of them. You realize the numbers were never outside you. They are the pulse of your own energy echoing through time, through the field, through this vast conversation between soul and source. Numbers talk not to predict, but to awaken. They remind you that you're part of a living intelligence far deeper than logic, a code older than language. And when you learn to listen, even the simplest moment, a glance at your phone, can become a portal to meaning. Because in truth, the universe is always speaking. Sometimes it just chooses numbers to make sure you hear. You did everything right, followed the rules, listened to logic, got the job, the relationship, the routine, and yet something felt missing, not just once but always. This is the silent cost no one warned you about. The price of disconnection. In a world that worships reason, we were taught to distrust the invisible. We learned to silence the subtle signals, the hunches, the gut pulls, the dreams that spoke in symbols. We were told that unless something could be measured, it wasn't real. That feelings were unreliable. That intuition was unscientific. So we disconnected. We became skilled at logic, but strangers to our own inner knowing. We learned how to analyze everything, but forgot how to feel truth without evidence. And then we wondered why clarity felt so far away, why we could be surrounded by success and still feel hollow. The mind is a tool, a brilliant one, but it was never meant to lead alone. Intelligence without intuition is a map with no compass. You might know where the roads are, but not where your soul is trying to go. And here's the deeper truth. Your confusion isn't failure, it's feedback. It's the language of your inner self trying to get your attention. Not through facts, but through feelings, through restlessness, through the sense that something's off, even when everything looks fine. This isn't about rejecting logic. It's about restoring balance. You were never meant to choose between being smart and being sensitive. The most awakened people are both. They think deeply and feel widely. They analyze data and honor dreams. They know that real clarity doesn't just come from the head, but from the heart space that holds it all. So how do you return to that balance? Start simple. Trust when something feels off, even if you can't explain it. Pause before saying yes and ask if it resonates, not just if it makes sense. Give your body a vote in your decisions. And when your intuition whispers, don't wait for permission to listen. Because the deeper intelligence you seek, the one that guides synchronicities, the one that made you look up at 11 is already alive inside you. It's not irrational. It's original. And it's been waiting for you to remember that the mind was never meant to silence the soul. It was meant to serve it. There was a time when science and spirit sat in opposite corners, one rooted in equations, the other in mystery. But as physics peeled back the layers of the atom, something unexpected emerged. Mystery was waiting there too. At the quantum level, the rules shift. Particles are entangled, separated by vast distances yet moving in mirrored unison. An electron observed behaves differently than one left alone. Time appears less linear, space less fixed. Reality, it seems, responds to awareness. This is not poetic metaphor. This is experimental data. The famed physicist Wolfgang Pauli once found himself pulled into a world far beyond equations. After collaborating with Carl Jung, he began to see the strange parallels between quantum entanglement and human experience. Two people, separated by years or continents, experiencing the same dream. A number repeating in every moment of decision. A thought mirrored by a friend without a word spoken. Jung called it synchronicity. Pauli saw its shadow in particle behavior. Together, they dared to ask, what if consciousness itself shapes the fabric of reality? We now know that observation is not passive. The observer effect suggests that the act of attention changes outcomes. And if everything is connected through what Einstein called spooky action at a distance, then you are not separate from the events unfolding around you. You are a participant, a node in a field, a transmitter and a receiver. This changes everything. If the universe is more like a web than a machine, then synchronicities are not strange interruptions. They are signals that the field is responding to you, that your inner world and the outer world are in dialogue, that what you think and feel, subtly or boldly, ripples outward and is answered. So the real question is this real? It's, am I paying attention? Because you are always connected. The only choice is whether you're aware of the signal or living as if you've been unplugged. In a world where science now confirms what mystics long whispered, the frontier isn't out there, it's within you. And you, the observer, are also the creator. Sometimes synchronicities don't just feel like messages from the universe. They feel like memories, not of events, but of a feeling, a knowing. A version of you that once walked closely with wonder, that understood meaning without needing words. You don't remember the details. You just feel a soft ache, as if something sacred had been buried under years of noise. That's not your imagination. That's your soul remembering itself. We've been trained to interpret the world through logic and timelines, to explain things away. But the most powerful truths often return through sensation. Through a song that stirs tears before your mind can translate the lyrics. Through a stranger's words that echo something you wrote in your journal years ago. Through numbers, symbols, or sudden stillness that makes time stretch open like a doorway. These aren't coincidences. They are reflections of the you that never forgot who you are. When synchronicities begin to flood your life, it's not just the universe getting your attention, it's your own being inviting you home. So how do you return? Start small. You don't need to decode the cosmos. You only need to feel the rhythm of this moment. Close your eyes. Inhale slowly. Feel the breath enter not just your lungs, but your whole chest, your belly, your hands. Let the exhale soften the tension behind your eyes. Notice how even in silence there's movement, a pulse, a whisper of light beneath your skin. That presence is you. And every synchronicity is a mirror, reminding you that the part of you who believed in wonder, the part that trusted intuition, symbols, sensation, isn't lost. It's just been waiting for you to pause long enough to hear again, to remember, not with the mind, but with the body, the breath, the gentle inner gaze. The forgotten you is never truly gone, just quiet, just patient. And right now, it's listening. It's strange how often people describe the same moment, different cities, different lives, different pain, but the same feeling when a synchronicity arrives. I felt seen, they whisper, like someone or something knew exactly what I needed. Maybe it was a song from childhood that played just as they were about to give up. A number that kept showing up when they were doubting their path. A dream that answered a question they hadn't even spoken aloud. These aren't just random comforts. They're reminders, because the universe doesn't lecture. It doesn't demand. It waits, quietly, patiently. It sends signals, soft, strange, timed just so, not to prove a point, but to remind you that you've never truly walked alone. We often imagine the universe as some distant force, a concept out there. But what if it's more intimate than that? What if it moves through every conversation, every silence, every moment of stillness that feels just a little too perfect to be chance? Not to control you, but to companion you. To nudge, not shove. To whisper, not shout. And maybe that's the point. Synchronicities don't arrive to convince. They come to ask, are you listening? Because there's a rhythm beneath the chaos, a pulse underneath your story. And if you let it, even for a moment, it will carry you, not away from your life, but deeper into it. You were never forgotten. You were never abandoned. You were never truly alone. You were simply learning how to remember what it feels like to be accompanied by life, by meaning, by a mystery that's never been separate from you, only waiting for you to notice. There comes a point when the signs stop surprising you, not because they lose their magic, but because you begin to expect them. They've always been there. You just weren't trained to notice. But now you do. You see the same number, hear the same phrase, sense the same feeling, again and again. And the question begins to form. What am I supposed to do with this? Sometimes nothing. Not every synchronicity is a call to act. Some are just a gentle hand on your shoulder saying, you're in the right place, keep going. We've been taught that every input must demand output. Every pattern must lead to decision. But the language of the soul is more nuanced. Repetition can mean urgency, yes, but it can also mean reassurance, like a wave returning to shore, not to change it, but to remind it, I'm still here. In the flow state, athletes, artists, thinkers all speak of a moment when the mind quiets and the body knows. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation, and the key, listening without panic. You don't have to decode every number immediately. You don't have to chase every echo. You only need to stay open, curious, grounded. Because the signs are not instructions, they're companions, mirrors, breadcrumbs. Their purpose is not to control you, but to confirm you're not lost. So when you see the same thing again, pause, breathe, let it register. You are being spoken to, not pushed. You are being guided, not rushed. And most of all, you are being reminded, what repeats remains, and what remains matters. It's easy to believe that life is happening to you, that people are difficult, that outcomes are random, that some days are just bad. But what if nothing out there is random? What if it's all a mirror? Not in the surface way of you attract what you deserve, but in a deeper, quieter way, everything is responding to your frequency, constantly, lovingly, unfailingly. You change your story and the world begins to rewrite its script around you. You don't even have to try that hard. Sometimes all it takes is a new internal sentence, a new vibration. One viewer said, "I told myself everyone is always nice to me, and people actually changed." That's not manipulation, that's resonance. The external world is not fixed, it's fluid, and it listens to what you whisper when no one's watching. Your thoughts are signals, your emotions are frequencies, your beliefs are tuning forks. And when all three align, reality bends, not to control you but to reflect you. The universe is not punishing you, it's translating you. And that translation gets clearer the more you clean your frequency, not through force but through presence, through softness, through remembering who you really are. So the next time something happens that feels familiar, pause. Don't blame, don't spiral, just ask, what am I broadcasting? Because once you shift within, the mirror has no choice. It must show you the change. And in that reflection, you don't just see the world. You see yourself finally returning home. We're taught that effort is everything, that you have to chase, push, hustle. But synchronicities don't respond to force. They respond to readiness. And readiness isn't about doing more, it's about allowing more. Receiving isn't a passive act. It's a sacred permission. It's you stepping out of the survival mind and saying, yes, I am willing to let it in. Love, peace, clarity, even money. One viewer shared, once I allowed, everything started flowing without chasing. There's a shift that happens when you stop trying to earn what your soul already signed up for. You no longer beg the universe. You join it. Because the signs, the messages, the nudges, they're already arriving. The only question is, are you open enough to receive them? Receiving doesn't mean sitting still. It means softening your grip. It means making space in your thoughts, in your body, in your day, for what's already trying to reach you. Somewhere along the way, many of us learn to block blessings with skepticism, to turn away from softness, to mistrust the ease. But there is intelligence in gentleness. And when you give yourself full permission to receive, you'll see it wasn't about manifesting harder. It was about finally believing you were never unworthy to begin with. What if everything you're drawn to isn't random? What if you're pulled towards certain places, numbers, people? Was your soul remembering its map? Synchronicities aren't isolated fireworks in the sky. They're landmarks, trail markers. And each one whispers, you're getting warmer. Long before you were born, your soul outlined a path, a blueprint, not rigid like fate, but alive like music, responding, evolving, guiding. And when you feel something click, when a moment feels too precise to be chance, it's not luck, it's alignment. It's the map speaking back. The Akashic Records, an ancient concept, describes this as a cosmic archive, your soul's contracts, intentions, and intersections. And though the language may vary, the message is universal. You are not drifting aimlessly. You are remembering. And the reason synchronicities feel so electric is because they're not just reminders of something out there. They're echoes of something in here. You've known your way home all along. Not the home with walls, but the home within, where your intuition lives, where your purpose pulses just beneath your skin. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming someone true. Your truest self has never been missing, only forgotten. Every strange alignment, repeated number, or word you kept hearing wasn't just coincidence. It was a reminder, a nudge from something deeper, a way your soul speaks when logic goes silent. You didn't imagine the feeling. You ignored it because the world trained you to. But now you remember, not with the mind, but with the knowing that lives just beneath your breath. This isn't about proving anything. It's about noticing again, trusting again, walking slower, listening closer. And when life begins to shimmer, when the moment feels alive with meaning, let it in. Let it guide you, not to answers, but to deeper questions. Because you are not here to figure it all out. You're here to remember the rhythm and walk with it. Take a breath. If this spoke to something inside you, you're not alone. Stay close. Subscribe if you'd like to keep remembering together.